Rabbi Moshe Hauer from Baltimore tells a story of walking with his family into the National Gallery in Washington and into the Impressionist gallery. Beauty all around. And there they see an artist with her easel up, her canvas. She's painting a replication of one of the beautiful pieces of art there. And he goes up to her and studies her painting, which was already an excellent copy of this Impressionist painting. And he says, "Oh my God, this is beautiful. You're almost done. You must be so pleased." And she said, "Almost done? I'm not even halfway done. Take another look at the original. You can see the luster in the eyes. Can you see the beauty in the skin? So much radiance. I have so many more layers and so many more strokes until I have come close to that beautiful creation." Keep that in mind, that story. So our sages, Chazal, say Hayom Harat Olam. All through the Rosh Hashanah davening, we hear those words, those three words, Hayom Harat Olam. What does it mean? On Rosh Hashanah, the world was born, the world was conceived. But they point out that it wasn't actually, the world wasn't created, it was something else very cryptic that happened on Rosh Hashanah, which begins for all of us now. This is the anniversary of the words, Na'aseh Adam B'Tzalmenu Kidmutenu. These famous, crazy famous words that were spoken by the creative power in Genesis that mean, let us make humans in our image and in our likeness. Or it could be a question, shall we make humans in our image and in our likeness? I always picture a mad scientist in his cosmic laboratory with this crazy brainstorm that they just had of creating this new creature. The question is that all the rabbis ask is, who is God talking to? Who is the they? Who is we? Shall we make this being, this two-legged being? And one of the greatest midrashim in all Jewish literature, I believe, comes from Genesis Rabbah, and it answers this question by describing an amazing cosmic debate between the creative power, between God, and four angels, the celestial guardians of the pillars of the world. Who are they? Let me introduce you to them. Chesed, which is love, okay, love or goodness, loving kindness. Emet is truth, very good. Shalom, peace. And Tzedek, justice. We'll call it justice. Okay, says God, Na'aseh, shall we do this thing? Shall we create this two-legged vertical being? God is twinkling with that question. This is a great experiment. Right away, Chesed, loving kindness, answers, "Oh yeah, absolutely, God. Just imagine the love that's going to proliferate from them. All the acts of kindness that will flow from them. They'll share food. They'll create art. They'll discover vaccines. They'll invent life-saving devices. They'll build hospitals. And immediately truth butts in. Oh my God, are you joking? God, think about this soberly. What's going to happen to truth? These beings will proliferate falsehoods, false facts, alternate facts, moral equivalences, cancel culture, not to mention bogus news stations, breeding willful ignorance. Can you believe this? I mean, you're not serious. They're going to destroy your creation. Well, peace had to agree. God, you should really listen to truth, peace said. You create these vertical two-leggeds and the world will be ruled by self-interest and greed, never peace, not for more than 40 years at a time. Testosterone will prevail. Think of the wars, the colonization, the brutal occupations that go on and on, the ethnic cleansing. In despair, God turns to Tzedek. Tzedek, justice, what do you have to say? Justice replied judiciously. Actually, I think we should give the experiment a try. Let's give the human being the benefit of the doubt, shall we? I think you will find a propensity of them will seek to carry forth justice, even if it does take a very long time. And so it was. A tie, and God was the swing vote. So on that day, which is this day, Rosh Hashanah, the impulse of creation, God, life, whatever you want to call it, made the choice to breathe. Let's all take a breath. Nishmat Chayim, the breath of life into the two-dimensional idea of us. And with that divine breath, an unquantifiable essence, the mystery of consciousness, animated human beings, embedding each one of us with what the sages would later call Chelek Elohai Mimal, which means a facet of divinity, a sliver of infinity, a fraction, just a fraction, a fractal, a chip off God's old block inside each and every one of us. I did not make this up. This is all in Genesis Rabbah, chapter 8. So how did the experiment come out? I think we all know the answer to that. The jury is still out. The great experiment is truly hanging in the balance, tipping this way and tipping that. One moment, our species burgeons with an outburst of intelligence, an idea to redistribute food, to save water, to interrupt the global collapse that we ourselves created, followed by maddening filibusters, by self-interest groups that co-opt those very ideas, strong men around the world who sell off rainforests, organize crime cartels that terrorize the weakest population, that rape Mother Earth, all leading to denial, to delay, to decay, to destruction. But let's take a minute, everyone. I invite you to take a breath, because this is really heavy stuff. I just want to appreciate how the ancient rabbis instructed us to live in these times. They did, hundreds and thousands of years ago. They're teaching us with this midrash how to argue with God, how to hold contradictions, how to deal with nuanced realities. I like the idea of arguing with God. That's very Jewish. And we see it in the icon, really, of the page of Talmud. Who here has seen a page of Gemara, where you have the Mishnah in the middle, and then all the warring factions, the commentaries all around that text, many of which contradicting each other and saying, oh, no, you don't have any idea. This is really the truth. No, this is really the truth. They're like seated at a big table, and they are all speaking their voice, and we get to choose which one we agree with. And so let's do just that. Because there are other answers posed to the question of who God was talking to that day, which is this day, this anniversary day. As we've seen Midrash and also Rashi say, God was speaking to the angels. But Nachmanides in the 11th century said, no, God was actually speaking to the elements, to the earth herself. Because the earth would be God's partner in creation, in human creation. She would provide the body, and God would provide the soul. And apparently, the earth went along with the deal. But the commentary that speaks to me the most, that is, I think, the most beautiful and poignant, suggests, it's from Zohar, 13th century, Castilla, Spain, suggests that when God said, let's create human beings, God was speaking to us, to each one of us throughout time. Na'aseh Adam, shall we do this thing? Come on, let's do this thing. let's do this human experiment together. God is entreating us. I will start, and you take it from there. The earth will provide the raw materials, and I, God, will provide limitlessness. I will provide infinite possibility. I will provide the unquenchable, as C.G. Jung would say, the irresistible urge to become fully yourself. And the chip that I embed in you of my likeness is sheer potential, right? And that will guide you like a GPS system, day by day, year by year, throughout your life, stroke by stroke, paintbrush by paintbrush, till you become the most beautiful you that you can become. I believe that this is one of the origins of the idea that we are partners in creation. Have you heard that idea? That we're partners with divinity in creation. It's the wisdom that says creation is not finished, nor are we. Creation is, perhaps you would say, deeply flawed. Well, so are we too. And we might say that both are seriously in process. As my beloved David would say, we're all package deals made of shadow and light, delusions of grandeur, side by side with heart-wrenching goodness. As for our hubris, our human arrogance, well, soon enough we each find out the truth. We grow up, we grow old, we grow frail, we die. All of us. But as we take the blows of our mortality, we hopefully get to see glimmers of that birthright of sheer possibility, the chip of infinite yes, that keeps us churning and changing and chafing, adding as the painter did, layer by layer and stroke by stroke, coming closer and closer to who we are born to be, our full potential. Okay, I would love to bring it in for a landing there, but then we would all be glowing on the halls of the gallery in Washington, the National Gallery, and that's not exactly the case. There's one more radical ingredient that we need to at least tend to on Rosh Hashanah, and one that the angels surely factored into their pleas on that day in the laboratory. Their metric of what we might become must have included what the indigenous North Americans, our own pioneers in this great land, they called it Wetiko, and what our Jewish tradition calls Ra. And I'm talking about evil. I'm talking about the inclination to be evil, to act in evil ways. On Rosh Hashanah, we need to mention this, because that too is implanted in us, side by side with that Godship, right? In fact, it may actually be in our Godship. That's a controversy. It's the element we know so well that takes us on wild binges and down rabbit holes into distraction and judgment and self-loathing and addiction and criminality and paralysis and despair and all that stuff that humans have to deal with. The problem is that Ra, the Hebrew word for evil, for this thing, lies hidden as the shadow side, the other side. The Kabbalists called it the Sitra Achra, the other side of every insight, every stroke of goodness becomes pride. The ego co-opts it. In every advance of technology, profit, monetizing, greed, hand in glove, it goes with all the ingenuity, all the insight. Rabbi Ben Beria cited Shmuel. This is another amazing quote. God saw all that God had done on this day, creating humans, and said, very good, Tov Ma'od. And what do the rabbis say? He was really talking about the evil inclination. But how could the evil inclination be good? What do you mean? The rabbis ask. It teaches us that were it not for the evil inclination, humans would have no motivation to do anything. They wouldn't marry, we wouldn't bear children, we wouldn't create art, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't progress. The wheels of life would grind to a halt. That's in Midrash Tehillim, another amazing Midrash. Friends, we are coming in for a landing. I want to say that all these metaphors and all these stories are just a way of discussing, they're simple ways of describing this very complex situation that we're in. And if nothing else, I hope they give us a sense of profound compassion for ourselves, for what we have to live with. We know that Ra, Watiko, this evil inclination, is unmistakably afoot in our world right now. All the more reason to follow a wonderful philosopher from West Africa, Bayo Akomalafe. His prescription is, times are urgent. We must slow down. Times are urgent. We must slow down. That, my friends, is what we've come to do here together on Rosh Hashanah, to slow down, to be together, to sing together, to slow down together, to feel the beautiful beings that we are, and to connect and to continue the work layer by layer and stroke by stroke, wrestling with all the forces, and just to appreciate ourselves for what we are living with for this past year and all the years of our lives. So maybe this is the moment, when the real work of humanity begins, when we consciously answer the mad scientist question. Are you with me? Are we going to create this man, this woman? And we get to say, yes, okay, we're in this crazy experiment with you, God, fully cognizant of the pain involved, fully aware of the cruelty out there and in here. But I agree to be here. Hineni, I agree to be mortal. I agree to be human. I agree to be a witness to all of it. The ecstasy and the degradation, to feel it all and stay in the game with you, God. Because we are not only in the laboratory, we, my friends, are the laboratory. This Rosh Hashanah, let's declare ourselves to be co-conspirators with God. That means co-conspire. We breathe with each other. We breathe with God, the mind of the universe. Let's not miss the moment we're in together. The moment when the real test of humanity begins, when we get to be partners in creation and recreation, partners in Genesis and regenesis. In this powerful enterprise, partners with God. And may we throw our weight into the balance and tip the scales toward life on this planet, Mother Earth, away from the negligence that would bring us to more fascism, more cruelty, more suffering and destruction, to a world that is proliferating with love, with truth, with peace, and with justice. Good